Is that zombie a re-
Garden Warfare 2 ain't been doing very good lately, has it, peeps? We've got a whole bunch of things going down to hashtag save Garden Warfare 2. Obviously, as with a lot of these things, not really much comes from them. I don't know whether this is gonna bring more attention to EA.
If you've been in the PvZ circles for even a little while, you must have heard something that goes along the lines of
EA ruined PvZ 2 because of microtransactions.
They're like, well, look at what EA did. I'm like, I think the most misconception is that EA forced any of that on us. Like, that was most of those choices, if anything, were all internal choices that were chosen long before we ever got bought out.
And out of nowhere, it decided to add the functionality of leveling up plants to the game. The game was never made with leveling in mind, so what ended up happening was a disaster. The balance got torn to shreds.
Apparently we're done with seasons. Apparently it's over. There's no more seasons programmed into the game. I don't know, do you guys want me to make an effort and actually reach out? I'm really reluctant to reach out to PopCap about anything, because unfortunately EA's policies in terms of them communicating, even with creators, is terrible. It's abysmal. I wonder what it would take. I'm guessing, you know, PopCap franchise, it would be very expensive still. But how much money are they making? How much is it really worth now in its current state, man?
Recently, a blog post about the latest festival appeared on the BFM website, but tucked away near the end of this article was this shocking piece of news. As the leaves start to change, September's Fall Festival will be our last festival, and our final game and gameplay update will be at the end of the month. That's right, you heard me correctly, this is not a dream. Battle for Neighborville will no longer be receiving content updates after the final patch coming at the end of September.
New game alert. Plants vs Zombies 3 drops on Android devices for pre-alpha testing July 2019. This game's cool and all, but why am I all of a sudden having a breakdown on the cold bathroom tile floor thinking about the good old days? Yes. Everyone was repulsed and disgusted by Plants vs Zombies 3. Over the years, the soft launch would become unavailable and then would be re-released again and again and again. On April 5th, 2022. After being unavailable for a while, it was then re-released again.
Different doesn't always mean good. I'm seeing this, and I'm just seeing all the same mistakes being made again.
Most of us can already feel and see PvZ 3 is going straight toward a brick wall at an alarmingly fast rate, and maybe already too late to stop it. We are 3 betas in, and yet none of the fundamental issues have been addressed, and our feedback is seemingly being ignored.
Obviously pretty similar, but there's a huge difference here between, PvZ 1 or 2 in this game. I don't know how I feel about it. And as I said, I've seen this a bunch because there's been like several different versions over the last couple of years.
I think the easiest way I can start this is with a question. What is this supposed to be? I just couldn't help but ask the question while I was sat here playing this. Like, I don't know what this game's trying to be, but it doesn't feel like PvZ.
Koala OM showed this Reddit post image in their video about this topic, and I have to say I was shocked. Like, I know back in 2019 with the original soft launch of PvZ 3, a lot of people pointed out and were concerned the game was a copy of Clash Royale. But then to go back to the drawing board to copy a hyper-casual Gardenscapes game is quite scary.
I don't know, I'm frustrated. That's the best word I can probably attach to this whole experience. I'm just frustrated.
Today I learned there was going to be an animated Plants vs Zombies movie. This could have been so good. The Plants vs Zombies franchise has sort of gone off the rails in recent years, deviating from the simplicity of what made it so popular. The world of PvZ is also interesting enough that a while back, an entire movie was being planned behind the scenes. We only found out about this recently, but here's concept art created by Peter Zaslav. Oh my god. Easily the best concept art of the movie so far. This is an Avengers-like war of epic proportions. Even more details are revealed thanks to Rich Warner, the original artist for the series. According to him, a full script for the movie was made, along with a bunch of concept art. He ended up going to DreamWorks for a pitch, but nothing came of it.
For the past year, they had been working on a brand new Plants vs Zombies adventure that would take the series in a very different direction. It was called Project Hot Tub, and it was to be an action-adventure game with the open corridor progression of an Uncharted, the combat of something like Batman Arkham Knight, but the family-friendly vibes of a Ratchet & Clank. I spoke to multiple sources familiar with Project Hot Tub's development for this story, and learned that it was internally planned for a late 2017 release. As we know now, it never materialized. Project Hot Tub was a passion project, made by a group of people who loved the Plants vs. Zombies franchise and wanted to use its world to tell an emotional, resonant story about family and friendship. Project Hot Tub, a story-driven action-adventure game that focused on a teenage boy named Eddie and his bond with one of the iconic Plants vs. Zombies plants, Pea Shooter. Pea Shooter and Eddie's growing friendship served as an important core of Project Hot Tub's story. The two bond as they adventure together, moving and fighting as a team in ways neither could on their own. When Eddie jumps off a high ledge, for instance, he can hang on to Pea Shooter's leaves and use them as a glider. While Eddie was Project Hot Tub's main protagonist, he wasn't the only playable character. With a vertical slice, a development plan, and a lot of hope, by late 2016, Project Hot Tub was ready to be shown off to EA executives. Despite their lofty goals, the Project Hot Tub team felt confident that what they had made was good, convincing, and interesting enough for their ambitious project to proceed. The presentation took place. The rest of the team heard from their representatives in Redwood that it had been received very well. Nevertheless, they were told within the following days that Project Hot Tub was being shut down, and the team was being moved onto a much bigger project that EA executives had determined needed their skills more: Visceral's Star Wars.
EA has some really exciting plans in the works for the Star Wars portfolio, and what we're doing is bringing in talent from across the industry and letting them loose.
PopCap were basically recruited to provide support to Visceral's Star Wars project, which infuriatingly got cancelled a year later. Could you imagine how heartbreaking it was for the developers who poured hours and hours into a project to be moved over to something completely different for it later to be cancelled? After the